On this episode of the Turnbuckle, an AEW behind-the-scenes docuseries is beginning to film in November. WWE is warned by Bully Ray against bringing back the Bray Wyatt Fiend character. Toni Storm admits to AEW interim nonsense and how much of it's bothering her. And Shawn Michaels doesn't consider NXT to be in a new era, folks. It's time to hit a Storm Zero into some wrestling news because it's time for the Turnbuckle. Warner Bros. Discovery is moving ahead with a behind-the-scenes documentary series focused on AEW. In May, AEW sent out a survey announcing the series was in the works and asking fans to help name it. AEW also revealed that the show will, quote, track our core cast on the road at AEW events as they try to hold on to the titles they have or win back the ones they've lost, with everything culminating at the biggest pay-per-view event of the year. Okay. According to a report from Fightful Select, AEW staff and talent were informed this past week that filming for the project will begin on November 2nd when AEW Dynamite emanates from the Chesapeake Arena in Baltimore. It will continue for 6 weeks until Winter is coming on December 14th from Garland, Texas. Tony Khan will serve as executive producer. Wow, crazy. The project will be a collaboration between Warner Bros. Discovery and Shed Media. It is expected to air sometime in 2023. Warner Bros. Discovery U.S. Network's Group Chair and Chief Content Officer Kathleen Finch spoke to The Hollywood Reporter earlier this month about looking to create AEW content that's not in a wrestling ring. Okay, so, yeah. I mean, there you go. That's pretty much it, really. There it is right there. This is the first step in AEW and I was going to say WWE, AEW and Warner Brothers coming together and being like, hey, we want to make content that is about AEW and is about all the wrestlers and everything, and we want to do something that isn't necessarily about wrestling specifically, but it like has to do with it, you know? So this is the first thing that they're going to be doing, and I'm excited to see where this goes. And I mean, as much of the flack that it sounded like I was giving Tony, it makes sense that he is the executive producer. I mean, it's literally about his company, you know? So it makes sense that he's going to be the one to, like, oversee everything and, you know, I guess, like, put the final stamp on it and everything. So, really, we're going to have to, okay, 6 weeks. It starts November 2nd and it ends on December 14th in Garland, Texas. What did it say? It said, track our core cast on the road, our core cast on the road at AEW events as they try to hold on to the titles they have or win back the ones they've lost, with everything culminating at the biggest pay-per-view event of the year. Winter is Coming is the biggest pay-per-view event of the year? I thought that was All Out or Double or Nothing. I thought that was like one of the big pay-per-view events. It's kind of weird that this is culminating at Winter is Coming. Is that a big pay-per-view event? I mean, I didn't think it was. I thought it was like Beach Break or something. I thought it was like Grand Slam, you know, Blood and Guts. It wasn't necessarily something that was, you know, a big pay-per-view. It was just one of the many pay-per-views that were relatively significant. But the only thing I can think of is that they're sort of like testing the waters. So, I don't know. I actually don't know, to be fairly honest with you. I don't think that this is going to be bad. I'm sure that this is going to be like high production. It's going to be really well put together and it's going to be nicely edited and everything. I really think the issue is just the fact that it's going to follow the core cast. So it's not going to be about everyone. So you're going to have people that you want to see on there, and you're going to have people that you don't want to see on there. And it's going to be it's setting a precedent because it's like, oh, if you're watching this person, that means they're either A, going to win a title, or B, they're going to keep a title. So I feel as though that whoever is on camera, it's going to be like a movie. It's going to be like, okay, I have to follow this person, and there's no reason why I shouldn't be following this person. This person is obviously going to meet some type of end goal of some kind. Right? Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know. So, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. When is it starting? It is starting November 2nd. So, we're really going to have to wait and see what happens with that. So, only time will tell. Next, WWE is warned against bringing back Bray Wyatt's Fiend character. While speaking on the latest episode of Busted Open Podcast, Bully Ray stated that he believes WWE should not bring back the Fiend. It almost seems like Bray Wyatt coming out as Wyndham Rotunda or Bray Wyatt, whatever you want to say, in his purest form, wanted to be good, wanted to bear his soul, but the voices in his head the characters that he's portrayed just won't let him. And that's the road I think they're going down. Got to be careful, though. With The Fiend, they painted themselves into such a corner where this guy was impervious to pain. They have to be able to have this depth of character in which Bray Wyatt can still wrestle a match and work a match. My biggest fear for The Fiend was what happens when the bell rings and the house lights go up. Now what? Now he's just another pro wrestler. In a ring, you have this character that has so many layers. It's so deep. But then once the bell rings, you're a pro wrestler and you got to wrestle a match. And that's where the disconnect from me with The Fiend came from me with The Fiend. Sorry. So he's got a point. It makes sense that you don't want The Fiend to no-sell moves and he's just constantly beating everybody and he's not moving. Like if he goes into the ring and the bell rings, it's kind of like Goldberg back in like the early 2000s. It's like The Rock, you know, like it's like Stone Cold. It's that thing of like, well, I know he's not going to lose. Like, I just know that. And with The Fiend, it's even worse because not only is he not going to lose, he's not going to sell anything. So anybody he gets into the ring with, unless it's Brock Lesnar or The Undertaker or Goldberg or John Cena, no one's really going to, like, believe that he is going to lose to anybody. So he's got a point in the sense that, like, he's right. You're painting yourself into a corner because again, like I said, it sets a precedent going forward that if he gets into the ring, then everyone is just going to assume that he's just going to do spooky nonsense, and then it's going to be like the boogeyman, and they're going to, like, he's going to pin them, and he's going to choke them out, and then drag them to the backstage or something. Like when The Fiend was here before, and every time The Fiend was in a rivalry with somebody, every time he beat them, they underwent some sort of, like, drastic change, like The Miz and Daniel Bryan and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I doubt that that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to be really careful with this. I feel like when Vince was in charge, he didn't necessarily know what he had when he had it, so he didn't know what to do. But now that I think that it's being cared for by Triple H and by Bray Wyatt himself, I feel like they're going to actually do what they can and do what they should to make sure the character doesn't lose any of its merit, you know? But no, Bully Ray definitely does have a point. They need to be careful and make sure that Bray Wyatt doesn't get himself stuck in the sense of like, oh, well, this isn't any fun anymore because, oh, it's Finn Balor versus The Fiend. Oh, it's Seth Rollins versus The Fiend. Oh, it's Bobby Lashley versus The Fiend. And no one believes that any of these guys are actually going to beat him. Everyone's just like, oh, well, I guess we're just going to see what The Fiend does. You know, we're going to see the lights go down and then they come back up and then Bobby Lashley's just gone, you know? And then it's like, oh, that's no fun. That's not really, how's that fun at the end of the day, you know? So I don't think that that's going to happen. What I think is going to happen is I think that Bray Wyatt and Triple H are going to carefully plan out what they're going to do with him. Just like how I have a feeling that whole thing, oh my lord, with the door being open. Sorry if you can hear my dogs. They just bark at anything. So I think that at the end of the day, I think that Triple H and Bray are really going to be careful with this. Like the whole thing about Bray coming out and cutting the personal promo, but then the masked man coming on screen, I think that was all scripted, like all of it. Even Bray coming, like I'm sure they were like, oh, Bray's going to come out and he actually is going to speak to the crowd. But I do think that was also part of it as well. So we're really going to have to wait and see what happens. That's the thing about wrestling. You can't just speculate and be like, oh, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen, you know? Next, we're going to talk about Toni Storm and how she admits the AEW interim nonsense is bothering her. According to Rose's most recent reports, she is currently undergoing physical therapy, non-surgical treatments, and other methods to recover from her back injury. After winning the interim crown by defeating Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, and Jamie Hayter in a four-way match at All Out, Storm recently spoke with Bleacher Report to discuss her objectives. Rose is expected to challenge for the title when she comes back. Storm is aware that she will most certainly be on the shelf for several more months, but in the interim, she has decided how she wants to represent the business. I guess my first thing would be to beat Thunder Rosa and stop this interim nonsense, Storm said. That's kind of what's been bothering me. I think that's been bothering a lot of people because she's still calling herself the AEW Women's World Champion, and I'm the one here every week doing the work. Right now, I guess it's about being a good champion, being a strong champion. That's what I'm up against every day. I'm working harder than I ever had in my entire career. The time is now. I look at every week as just an opportunity to prove myself. I love giving it my all, and who knows where I go from here. But all I know is I'm going to continue to work hard. She is absolutely right. I have been saying that this interim nonsense has been just that, absolute nonsense, for weeks. Rosa has been gone for upwards of about, 2 months? It's been at least 2 months since Thunder Rosa has been here. And at this point, take the interim label off of it and just name Toni Storm the world champion. Because I spoke about this on Twitter. If Thunder Rosa comes back and beats Toni Storm, everything that Toni Storm did up to this point is absolutely useless. It is an absolute waste of time. Because all it means is that you were essentially, the trios titles, they didn't give anyone the trios titles. They didn't announce anything about the trios titles until the Young Bucks and Kenny came back, just so they could give it to them. They are still calling her the interim women's world champion, just so Thunder Rosa can come back and win the belt and then go right back to being a fucking meaningless champion again. When Thunder Rosa was the champion, did anyone believe that she was the champion? I mean, if you did, that's more power to you. But I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it one bit. Because all she was doing was she was coming out and she was cutting pretty stale promos about being a world champion. And she was barely getting any TV time. And none of the programs or feuds that she was in was believable enough. And half of the time, all she was doing was just yelling at Britt Baker. That really seems to be what everyone does. Whenever a woman comes into the AEW roster, that's all they do. Britt Baker comes in and go, fuck you, and that's it. And then they slap them around a little bit, and then they're in a tag team feud or whatever, and then that's it. And then they go on dark, and then that's it. Toni Storm is the interim women's world champion. The world champion. And I buy her as a champion more than I buy Thunder Rosa, and Thunder Rosa is the actual world champion. So, if Thunder Rosa comes back and all she does is blow on Toni Storm and pins her, I'm going to be so upset. And I feel like I'm not going to be the only one who's going to be upset. So I hope that AEW makes the right decision and lets Toni Storm win and just calls her. They don't even have to do that. What they should do is Tony should come out, or he should do that dumb pre-recorded thing that he does and go, hey, who's he what's it? Thunder Rosa has been gone for a considerable amount of time. And we have been letting Toni Storm show up on TV time and time again. And she's been in matches, and she's been defending the belt, and she's been retaining it. So I think that it's only fair that we officially call Toni Storm the official AEW Women's World Champion. And when Thunder Rosa comes back, no, she does not get it. Well, okay, no, she does. She does. Because before she left, she was injured, and they still called her the Women's World Champion when she was injured. So you know what? In order to sell tickets, we're going to have Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship. And we're going to let Toni Storm win. He should just say it. Hey, Toni Storm's going to win. Because it doesn't make any sense to have Toni Storm be the interim world champion for this long, all so that Thunder Rosa can come back, slap her up, and then take the belt back, and then go right back to doing the crappy promos and the crappy programs and the crappy feuds. Because if that's the case, it's a slap in the face to Toni Storm. It is a genuine slap in the face, and I hope that's not what they do. Finally, we're going to be talking about Shawn Michaels and how he doesn't consider NXT to be in a new era. While speaking with Connor Casey of Comic Book, Shawn Michaels stated that he doesn't consider NXT to be in a new era. I certainly don't want to undersell anything, but I don't know that it's a new era where there's a big change. Certainly there was a black and gold, there was a 2.0, and now we have, I think what I guess is a hybrid. I mean, we don't want this NXT to really have to be defined as anything other than your NXT, to be perfectly honest. I don't want this to be Hunter's or Vince's or even mine for that matter. This is the NXT that belongs to the men and women of NXT that come through our system, and to those passionate and loyal fans that watch us come support us, to be perfectly honest. So I take it as them going, you remember way back in the day when NXT was doing the shows specifically from Full Sail. It was only from Full Sail. They weren't going anywhere else. It was nothing but the Full Sail arena, the Full Sail crowd. That was it. They weren't going anywhere else. It was just that arena. I think that that's what they're doing. And if that is the direction that they're going, that is exactly what they need to be doing. That, if anything, that's what AEW needs to be doing. AEW needs to dial it back and go back to where it originally started. Not literally, but more of in like a figurative sense. Like it's what Wardlow was talking about. We need to go back to the original AEW. I think that's what the direction that NXT is going in right now. And I really think that it's going to pay dividends for them in the near future. Because I think, again, it's the whole precedent thing. They're not trying to, like, be anything else. They're not trying to be larger than what they are. They're not trying to sell themselves short. They're just trying to stay within the realm that got them where they are. They're trying to stay within the realm that got them, like, famous, really. That really got them on the map. And really had people arguing whether or not NXT should be a developmental brand. If your developmental brand is doing so well that people are not considering it to be a developmental brand, that means that your developmental brand is actually doing way better than it has any right to be doing. And that's a good thing. That's what you want to hear. So I think that Shawn Michaels has a point in the sense of like, hey, I don't think that we should be calling NXT anything else. You know, I don't think that we should be trying to put NXT on any type of pedestal. What I think we should be trying to do is we should be trying to focus on NXT's core values and the people that are there, and we should be trying to focus on bringing the pageantry that is NXT to the people that are watching it. You know, so I completely agree with Shawn Michaels, and this coincides, if you've been following along with what Shawn has been talking about, because he's been going on about NXT, and he's been saying stuff like, oh, I don't want anybody to think we're selling NXT short. However, we're not going to move back to the takeover arenas. We're not going to go back to the big, takeover arenas. And that was never NXT in the first place. If you remember, wasn't it like NXT TakeOver Arrival or something? How that was never in like a big arena, but it was a big pay-per-view feel. What was it? NXT Dallas? Or NXT, I think it was Dallas. With Shinsuke versus Sami Zayn. That was a pay-per-view event, but that was still in a small arena. So you can do that. You can have pay-per-views and they don't have to take place in like a super huge arena with everybody all over the place. As long as there's a big fight feel to it, then I guess it's not really a big deal. Which I guess really shuts me up about the whole, WWE aren't making their pay-per-views, personal anymore. But I would argue that helps, but you don't have to do that. I never said that you don't have to do it. I just said I would like it if WWE went back to doing that. But again, the big fight feel, you don't necessarily have to have a big extravagant set for the pay-per-view. So at the end of the day, I think that Shawn Michaels is right in the sense that I don't think NXT needs to be any more than it already is, and it doesn't need to kick itself trying to be anything bigger than what it's trying to be right now. What do we talk about? AEW is doing a behind-the-scenes docu-series. I'm going to have to wait and see what that's about. So far, it's only going to be 6 weeks. I assume the 6 weeks is like a pilot, and then if the pilot does well, then they're going to continue on with the series, right? So we're going to have to wait and see. Bully Ray was saying how WWE needs to be careful about the Fiend character. I think they are. I think WWE is making sure that they don't, go a little bit over their head with the whole situation, Toni Storm admits the AEW interim nonsense is bothering her. It's bothering me. I really don't want Thunder Rosa to come back and then be like, oh, guess what? I'm still the world champion. And then bing, bang, boom. She's still the world champion. And then I don't think Toni Storm is going to get pushed to the back, but it's going to drop her stock. It is. It's going to drop her stock no matter what because she's not the champion anymore. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, there's going to be people that are going to be diehard fans and be like, no, I still believe in Toni Storm. And obviously that goes with everybody, even the people who don't win. But that's going to be a negative effect on her character if she loses. And that's why I don't think it's a good idea for if Thunder Rosa does come back and does actually beat her. That's going to be really dumb. And Shawn Michaels doesn't consider NXT to be in a new era. And I believe him, okay? I think that they are genuinely going back to their core values and they're going back to the OG NXT. And they're going to be like, look, this is where we're filming it. We're not going to go anywhere else. And even the pay-per-views aren't really going to be that big. They're going to have a big fight feel, but the pay-per-views literally are not going to be any bigger than they already are. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode. I want to give a shout out to everybody who stopped by. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful tonight and a wonderful tomorrow. And as always, big hugs. Big hugs all around.